I have put thousands of hours into Path of Exile over the last decade, and somehow I have still never played one of its most iconic builds, Flicker Strike. Well, today, that's all about to change. This is my nearly zero to hero Flicker Strike journey, where my starting point is I have a self-found Impale Paradoxica from my last video, and my goal is to see how far I can take Flicker Strike in Trade League before it makes me sick. Big shout out to my unbelievably sexy channel members, thank you for supporting these videos, and without further ado, let's get started. First things first, I need to make a new character. I pick the duelist and give him a promising name, and my journey begins. I grab Spectral Throw as my starting skill until I can use Flicker Strike, since that's a level 10 skill and also won't really be usable until later on in the run for reasons that I'll get into soon. And somehow, when killing the Dweller of the Deep for the skill point, I get my 12th challenge done, which I guess means I forgot to do it on my last build. Typical. I obliterate Brutus with Spectral Throw because I decided to deck myself out in random useful uniques I had found in my last run, which yeah, some of you will say is cheating. I, however, like to think of it as fun maxing. After killing Brutus, I pick up Flicker Strike from Nessa and I try it out for the very first time. It totally sucks. I think many of you watching are probably quite familiar with the skill, but in case you're not, let me give you a quick rundown. Flicker Strike is an attack skill that makes you instantly blink to a target while stabbing them really fast, which is awesome, but it has one huge downside, a 2-second cooldown. Meaning you can't spam it and teleport all over the place unless you have frenzy charges you can consume. So the main challenge for any Flicker Strike build worth its salt is that it needs to figure out a way of generating frenzy charges all the time. And there are in fact quite a few ways of doing this. Once you've got that figured out though, you can absolutely go crazy with it, and dudes, this is some of the most fun I have had playing PoE in years. So, I forget about trying to use Flicker for now, instead relying on Spectral Throw until I can actually get it kinda up and running, which doesn't take too long. I kill Merveil and can kinda sorta almost rely on Flicker already with just Blood Rage and a Loctonial Caress while pushing through normal packs of monsters, but it's not exactly pretty. And when I'm up against a boss like Val Oversoul, well, I think this clip speaks for itself. I blitz past Act 3 and take out Dominus in the same way, and then, thinking ahead, I try to buy a 5-link Bronze Lythe from somebody for 40C, but realized after sending him the message that I can't even afford that. So I let him know and he just goes like, "Come, you can have it," willing to give it away for free, which is super generous. I love seeing when people are willing to give other players a hand with freebies here and there, and I try to do the same when I notice someone is new or just starting the league and I'm already established. I give him 20C anyways because I do at least have that much in my stash, and I hold on to the 5-link for later once I'm high enough level. I go to the Labyrinth, which goes really well, and I ascend to the Slayer class, choosing the Masterful Form node for an extra frenzy and endurance charge. I'm hoping I'll be able to swap to Flicker Strike permanently soon. And yeah, already in Comb's dream, it almost kinda is working, at least for white mobs anyhow. I take out Malachi, still using Spectral Throw, and the Edge of Madness two-hander since it's a great scaling leveling weapon, and at this point I finally add in the main missing puzzle pieces that will make Flicker much more sustainable. Multi-Strike and Poacher's Mark linked to Mark on Hit. With just those two things added, I can suddenly sustain against bosses more or less, so we are game on for flickering for the rest of the run. I'm already having so much fun, and it's just gonna keep getting better from here on out. I fight Kitava, dying in the process because it's Flicker Strike. If there's one thing that this build is famous for, it's that it dies a lot. To Kitava, to Shabrutus, and of course the deadliest pack of monsters in the game for this build, goats. Yeah, that's gonna happen a lot. I kill the Brine King in Act 6 and hit level 51, an important milestone for the build because it means I can finally equip a Terminus Est I had lying around, which was a match made in heaven for Flicker Strike because it has this one oh so important mod on it that reads, gain a Frenzy Charge on critical strike. That's it. That's all we need. Now, by investing in crit, you can pretty much self-sustain frenzy charges easily, even against bosses. I get a couple more levels, and now I can equip that awesome chest piece the dude was willing to give away to me, the 5-link Bronze Life. This armor is a fantastic pairing with Flicker Strike because it synergizes really well with it. Attack speed, movement speed, a +5 to movement gems, which Flicker Strike absolutely is, and last but not least, nearly 100% increased damage with movement skills. What's not to love about it? As for what links I'm using, I've got Flicker with multi-strike, close combat, impale, and faster attacks, because that's what works with the sockets I've got. I obliterate our Akali, and then Solaris and Lunaris go down, quickly followed by the Fatso in Act 9. And before I know it, I'm just about ready to have my rematch with Kitava, but I decide to go run my Cruel and Merc Labs first, which are both incredibly easy. I grab Impact for damage and Overwhelm because I'm planning on swapping out of Terminus Est into Paradoxica pretty soon, and the extra crit would be quite welcome. Alright, with the lab taken care of, it's time to settle the score with Kitava once and for all. It definitely went really well, and I didn't come close to dying multiple times at all. I don't know what you're talking about. With Kitava's heart exploding into a gory mess, that marks the end of the campaign for this Flicker Strike Slayer, and it went really smoothly. Got it done in 6 hours, and I am ready to map. In a Tier 3 cemetery, the very first map I chucked in the map device, this happened. A Divine Orb! This couldn't have gone better and is surely a sign of what's to come. Just ignore the immediate death to Explodey Strongbox. So with that little cash injection, it's time to make some real purchases for the build. First off, some Darkrai Vectors, which are classic go-to Flicker boots because they synergize with Frenzy Charges. Then an Abysses, which I haven't used in a build for years, but it's another do more fizz damage at the expense of being more squishy helmet, which will synergize really nicely with Paradoxica once I do eventually swap over. I also get some basic life and res gloves because I realize I'm not res capped yet. I decide to spec into an Essence Atlas tree, which I think will be a great way to get some reliable starter funds that I can then use to buy up more upgrades. I get to farming in low tier maps just to start out and drop a decent pair of face breakers, which inevitably collect dust in my stash. I get some high ticket essences, Hysteria and Horror. These are worth about like 30C each, and they're really not that rare as long as you corrupt every purple essence you see. As for scarabs, I was using 2 regular essence scarabs, an essence scarab of stability, and an ascent one. Kept it very simple. I dropped some Darkrai Vectors of my own and try to corrupt them, with bad luck of course. Get some more drops, die to the aptly named Death Mauler Crushing Glacier, and just farm a ton of essences. I also find out about this cool ring called Warrior's Legacy that can make my flicker hit twice if I'm doing single target damage, which is kinda huge if true. From what I understand, you have to like really aim your mouse cursor on the enemy for it to work, which is kinda weird, but I'm trying it out anyways. I farm up more essences and encounter 2 of my favorite shrines at once, the Speed Shrine and the Spell Echo Shrine, and holy shit, this is the ultimate power fantasy. Now if only I could stay like this forever. I die a couple times, get to level 80, find a one-off perfect Stone of Lazar, which I think is pretty neat, and ultimately decide it's time to sell off all of my essences over at Faustus, and I get 800 chaos worth after just having farmed for like an hour or 2. My first upgrade, a 6-link Bronze Life. I get all the right colors I need and add in Ruthless to my setup. With just this, I'm already able to do tier 16s now without too much trouble, although essences in tier 16s are another story entirely. At this point I decide, screw it, enough is enough, it's time to give up the Terminus Escalis and swap over to Paradoxica my beloved. I swap my 2-hander points out to sword attacks instead and add in the wonderful and totally not overpowered Dawnbreaker Shield, which I dropped on my Exarch fight in the last video. Hey, no more complaints, at least it's not as fallen, right? Bruh. I do the Uber Lab and Izaro just melts, changing out a whole bunch of my Ascendancy points actually, keeping Masterful Form and Impact, and grabbing the whole Headsman side of things. Really nice DPS increase here, and that 20% call is such a nice quality of life thing to have. I get to level 82, then anoint my Carnage Heart that I've been running since the start with Frenetic for an extra Frenzy charge, putting me up to a max of 8 Frenzy and Endurance charges now. I reach level 84 and 85 and run into a neat looking merc with Pride, Rallying Cry, and this skill called Insight, which can give me more Frenzy sustain, so I go ahead and hire him. I do my first 10-way Maven invitation, unlocking the 5th slot on the map device finally, and generally just keep trying to get Atlas completion wherever I can, which goes really well. I level to 86, buy some vulnerability on hit gloves for my merc, and then realize that I can't really use them because it would interfere with my poacher's mark unless I also gave my merc the ability to have an additional curse, which at the time felt like something I could not afford to do since golden oils are super expensive. Though as I'm writing this, I realize that there are so many other ways besides anointing Whispers of Doom that I could have gotten an additional curse for my merc, like, Windscream or the Dodri's Ring. Any of those would have worked. Sometimes this div card describes me way too accurately. I keep leveling, get to 87 and 88, do the Waka Waka map, and this ridiculous boss that is typically a huge pain in the ass is amazingly easy for Flicker Strike. I get a synth map for my trouble. It drops some tainted currency, and I didn't record the boss fight because it was embarrassing and I don't really want to talk about it. I ID this insane jewel with max strength and int and life rolls, which I ambitiously put up for sale for 10 div. It sat there for a while, but eventually it sold for 3, which I felt like I was getting robbed, to be honest, but hey, nobody was hitting me up for it, so I guess it's about right. Still, 3 div is 3 div, I shouldn't complain. I get to 89, decide to take on all of the Shaper Guardians, and get my first tier 17 map to drop an Abomination, which it definitely is, as I tried to complete it and could not. After beating all the Guardians and gathering the fragments, I test my skills against Shaper, which is usually a pretty straightforward fight in my experience. Oh man, was I ever not prepared for this. Flicker Strike just kinda sucks against straight up bosses, as I discovered, or at least this low budget version of Flicker does. I just couldn't do it. Flickering into Shaper's attacks, constantly getting killed in the process, was not my idea of fun. Moving right along, I bought a better pair of gloves, capping my Chaos Res finally, and then I fight a merc and get a lucky Horned Scarab of Awakening worth an entire Divine, which I didn't even know she had because I've kinda just defaulted to taking whatever's in their pockets without looking. Bad habit, I know. At least I'm not one of those 7 guys who skipped over a mirror, am I right? I buy a pretty solid Corrupting Blood immunity jewel with crit multi and some generic one-handed damage, replacing my old jewel, which I chuck a Valorb at for funsies, and of course it freaking hits the Corrupting Blood immunity as well. Classic. I continue farming essences for a little bit, finding a few nice uniques here and there, like this Impulsas and a well-rolled Jinx Juju I sold for 150C, as well as another Divine Orb, which still makes my brain go, holy shit, after all these years. I get to level 90 and finally sell off my entire tab of essences, netting me 3,000 chaos in profit, or just under 14 divines. With my newfound wealth, I buy a new ring, replacing Warrior's Legacy, since I find it's pretty dang finicky and I'd rather just have something reliable that is always working no matter what. I also get rid of my Bronze Life and replace it with this beauty with Fortify on hit, +1 to max all res, as well as life, chaos res, and a shit ton of armor renovation, which I am scaling both, by the way. I pick up a nice pair of corrupted gloves with the +1 to max frenzy implicit and a bunch of flat accuracy, letting me save 6 points on the tree, which is freaking tremendous, and putting me at a max of 9 frenzies now. This is huge. With all of these upgrades now, I felt like I couldn't possibly be more ready to fight the Maven. Boy, was I wrong. I couldn't do it. Frenzy Sustain is just not reliable enough against pinnacle bosses. I get it now. I understand why everyone ends up going for a replica Farrell's Fur setup to automate the Frenzy Sustain, but not me. I'm stubborn and also not afraid of admitting that I can't do some things on my own. So I hire a souped up Obama player from Wealthy Exile to come and finish her off for me, and we both get killed in the process during the memory game. My fault. Oh well, he came back and finished her off. Now I decide to try a new Atlas tree, this time focusing on breaches because they look like a ton of fun for Flicker Strike, and I was not wrong in the slightest. These were some of the juiciest maps I have played in a long time, almost but not quite, rivaling the craziness that was Nemesis 3 farming back in the day, in terms of pack size at least. And the experience gain in these maps was absolutely bonkers. I went from level 90 to 94 in something like 20 to 30 maps maybe, and all I did for Scarabs was just full-on Breach Scarabs. Breach on the map device, Breach Scarabs, that's it. Those alone in a big open map like Canyon just nets so much experience. I couldn't believe it. And if you haven't tried that out for yourself yet, I really strongly recommend you give it a go. It's just plain fun. I buy a Watcher's Eye with the Impales You Inflict Blast for 2 additional hits while using Pride, and a Precision Crit Multi mods for a whopping 6 Divines, the most expensive item in the build yet, and it takes me an ungodly amount of time to come to the realization that the Pride mod isn't even working because my Merc is the one with Pride and not me. Eventually though, I do make that realization and swap Mercs out, going for this guy with Determination and Vitality that I had from the last build, giving him all the good gear, including a Whispers of Doom anointed Perkle's Toe, a Blood Price helm to lower enemy HP, a Combs binding for extra tankiness, and that pair of Volnon hit gloves I bought forever ago. And I put Pride on myself. I keep farming breaches and get the last unique map I was missing to get full Atlas completion, the Coward's Trial. Hey, I actually self-farmed every single map this league without trading for them at all. That's pretty damn awesome and hasn't happened often. After completing it, I open Kirak's Final Vault and get an Exarch invitation which I sell, as well as the Screaming invitation I get naturally a few maps later. With the Atlas done and a decent chunk of change in my stash, I purchased my final upgrade for the build. The thing that brings everything this build has to offer together. Headhunter. For 8 Divines, because goddamn these have gotten so cheap in the past few leagues. It's kind of insane. I remember when getting a Headhunter was a big deal. Now everyone showcasing their builds on YouTube just walks around with Mage Bloods in every slot. It's kind of crazy. And yeah, with Headhunter acquired, there's really only one thing left to do: blast. Thank you again to all channel members. Your support really does help me out. And you know what else helps me out? Leaving comments and hitting that like button like you mean it. I know it wasn't a build roulette this time, but hopefully you guys still had a good time. Flicker Strike has been eluding me for years, and I finally feel like I can check that one off my build bucket list, which feels great to me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.